St. Paul.
Save St. Paul. Sustainable St. Paul or Save St. Paul?
Save St. Paul.
Saved, okay. Because they've had all kinds of different St. Paul.
You're getting ready to go now.
Go ahead.
Here we go. 2, 1. Good evening, and my name is Mark Bradley. Good evening, and my name is Mark Bradley, and welcome to Citizens Reporter. This evening we will not have Diana Longry with us right away because she had to visit outside of the area for a little bit. So we have our columnist, Joe Waters, is going to be speaking tonight, as well as we have a special guest, TIm Holden, who's running for St. Paul mayor. And welcome, Joe. And
well, good to be here. It's been an eventful day in the news, particularly the last 3 days. It's just like tragedy just never takes a day off, unfortunately. But on the other hand, you've got some potential closures in some situations that have been dragging on for a couple of months there.
And then, Tim, why don't we have you introduce yourself and give a little of your background so that people can get a little bit more into who you are.
Well, my name is TIm Holden, and I'm a Hamlin Midway resident. I've been in St. Paul pretty much my entire life. I'm a small business owner, and I am a participant in listening to people's concerns in St. Paul. My business is on University and Snelling, and I've been affected by the light rail construction in not a real good way. Businesses up and down the avenue have taken a tremendous hit from the construction due to an underplanned project and due to leaders that we have not listening to the needs and concerns that businesses have. St. Paul is a good city, and if I become mayor, I want it to be a great city, and I want the city to thrive. And I want to say thank you for letting me come on this evening, and I appreciate it.
I'm very happy to have you on, and we are welcome you as much as we can because we like to see people take a proactive action towards their cities, and I think that it should help, especially with the way St. Paul stands right now. I believe that their business district in the city itself, in the heart of it, has really gone dead because Macy's is closed, and the only real development you have is in the wings that are your Grand Avenue, and also then we're talking about West 7th, and of course, as you were mentioning earlier, University Avenue. And they've been so pressed, and now they're talking about they want to put a light rail in the future down Grand Avenue, which is the only other active, really strong part of St. Paul.
If you want to kill a strong, vibrant neighborhood, just put a choo-choo train down the middle of Grand Avenue. You will kill Grand Avenue. Grand Avenue doesn't have a lot of space to begin with, but it's that nice, quaint, family-owned shops that are there. And the only place you can put a light rail would actually be down the middle of a turn lane. So suddenly, University, Tim, you have a business on University Avenue. You guys lost a lot of parking.
When
that light rail came through. I noticed there's some buildings that have been torn down by the Amtrak station, but you lost a lot of on-street parking by having that light rail go down the middle of the road. And I've had a lot of friends that have lived there since the days before '94. They know what the devastation of a neighborhood is when 94 went right through the heart of the Rondeau neighborhood. So I guess my point being, we don't need any more light rails right now. Let's just stop and let's just evaluate what we have. And we need to take some lessons from what took place on University before we add any more. Your thoughts?
Well, I have to agree. I think I'm all for transit. I think transit's very important. But I think when we do something of this magnitude, we have to have definitely a strategic plan in place to make sure that we are dealing with all the concerns of the businesses, the community, and anybody that could be affected by the project. We as business owners up and down University collected and formed a group called UABA, and there were probably over 150 businesses that were a part of UABA prior to the start of the Central Corridor construction. And we knew that there was going to be a lot of issues with parking. They've taken over 1,000 parking spaces up and down University Avenue, and those parking spaces are gone. My business, where I'm at on University and Snelling, we've lost all of our parking completely. We have not one parking spot. As a general contractor, if we were to pull a permit to try and do anything in that facility in my building, now going forward, the city would require a certain number of parking spaces and at least one handicap parking space. We have none, not one handicap, not one parking space. So as far as I'm concerned, the city has rendered our property uninhabitable. Lost parking equals lost revenue, and basically that equals loss of livelihood.
And isn't that the same complaint that they're having now in Lower Town because of the proposal for the new stadium?
Exactly, exactly.
And we usually start out with the news articles, and we did have a couple of news articles to touch on, but they do relate to you, so I think I will be reading them and then asking for a little opinion on them. Because of one was, I was kind of surprised it came in there, because we'd announced last week that you were going to be on our show, and I was wondering if it had anything to do with you showing up here. Because if there's talking about this resurrection of St. Paul under, pardon the inconvenience, we're rebuilding in St. Paul in the Pioneer Press. But if you had read it, and it was actually in the Thursday paper this week, May 9th. If you, as you have probably already seen the paper.
I have.
And are aware of, there's a lot of bragging about how they're improving the cities and they're revitalizing the city of St. Paul. I kind of have my own questions because of revitalization to me is building new buildings and having a high demand for commercial property. And are you seeing that in St. Paul at all?
Well, as a small business owner that's been affected by the light rail and been involved with the city for 15 years, I personally haven't seen the growth that I would anticipate for the capital city. If you talk about downtown is rather embarrassing going down there with all the vacancy, and I think that's a real issue that we need to focus on. We need to fill the space downtown to create a tax base that'll help offset the costs for the services that are necessary. When we're looking at the article in the paper on May 9th, I believe a lot of the projects you see here are being subsidized, and publicly subsidized projects have a place, but when we're subsidizing everything, there's a real problem. We need to find a way to attract business. We need to find a way to listen to business owners and motivate people that want to come in and bring their businesses to town. We need to think about taxing and how that's affecting businesses, as well as the red tape that businesses are involved in once they do come. A lot of the projects that you see here, again, are all being publicly subsidized, and that, in my eyes, there's no exception for true business, when you're publicly subsidizing things.
Also, doesn't it affect your tax base as well?
It definitely does. It's going to increase need for more money to cover the cost of these things. And whether or not they make it, that's obviously been something that it's kind of a roll of the dice. You hope they all do well, but there's no guarantee.